3, 2, 1. We should be live.
Good morning, good night, whatever, wherever you are. Hi. Hi, how are you today? Happy St. Patrick's Day. For all the people who once knew someone who met someone in America whose great-great-grandfather was Irish. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Well, you know that we are prolific people.
Before we get into things, I thought Matt had gone all gangster and got himself a gold chain, but it wasn't.
No, it's just a plastic St. Patrick's Day necklace, which I suppose is probably more apropos than I would like to admit, given the term plastic patty.
Yeah, which I had to explain to someone once.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's pretty well known amongst all Irish Americans.
Yeah.
We sort of joke that we're all plastic patties.
Well, if you've got some kind of lineage, but yeah, whatever. Let's start talking about genealogy.
Fair enough.
Right, why are we here? Hello, I am Keith, also known as Mugwomble. This is Matthew. He does tech stuff and lines all this shit up for his YouTube channel. Evan's not with us today, but if he were, we would be the Beerumverate. We're three guys who started talking about video games, shared appreciation of the medium, and a shared appreciation of good beer, which we're going to talk about a little bit, and then we'll get on to some big gaming type topics. We're not here to condone irresponsible drinking. Please drink responsibly and don't hurt anyone else if you fancy doing that, because that would make you a dirty scumbag.
Indeed.
Any beers or breweries we talk about, we're not sponsoring us. If you feel like sponsoring us, particularly if we're nice about you, please do so. Thank you very much. And we've just had one episode. How have we done now? 6, 7?
No, so I did a count earlier tonight because I was telling my wife about it. I think we've done a total of 12.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. Praise Jesus.
So,
right. And
been going for about
well
a
done,
year.
everybody. So we're starting to be curated on SIFTD.net. Thanks very much for that, Shane and Vincent, for grabbing the stream. And thanks for all the people who commented last time and just being generally nice about me. Mainly me.
Yeah, I did want to do like a full disclosure. So anybody that's on the site will see that I have the little staff logo underneath my name. I actually did not curate the Beerumverate onto the site. I felt like I shouldn't be the one to post it, because I wanted to make sure that other people wanted to hear us ramble on about games and such. And so all I did was tweet it out at SIFTD Games on Twitter and at Dinfire, which is Shane. He's the guy that runs SIFTD. And
Lives.
I don't know if Vincent has access to the SIFTD Twitter or how he found out about it, if like Shane sent him a message or whatever. But yeah, I think Vincent was the one that ended up actually curating our last episode to the site. So just a shout out to him because he's doing an amazing job. I'm so busy with work and life that I hardly ever get to curate. And he's kind of holding it together. So shout out to him and thank him for, actually posting it on the main feed.
Yeah. I don't know how many views we got, but we got a decent number of likes.
We've tripled the view count. So like on average we get like 12 to 15. Now we're at about 38 or 40. So
boom.
Yeah.
Next year the world.
That's how it starts, man.
Right. So do we want to cover green beer? I don't particularly. I think Guinness is nice enough. You don't have to dye it green for a day, just as a gimmick.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing. So my wife and I went out with her sister and some friends. And earlier tonight, we were at one of the casinos downtown, and I ordered just a regular PBR. And as he was pouring it, it turned out green, and I died a little bit inside. And I was like, it's not even St. Patrick's Day, dude. It's like the day before, and you already got green beer. Yeah,
It is the most plastic place in America, for the most plastic celebration of the year.
right.
Yeah, that would just be a bit sad, really.
You know, what's funny is I was talking to a friend of mine earlier tonight, and I was like, he's not Mexican, he's El Salvadorian. But I told him, I was like, dude, it's St. Patrick's Day. It's the Irish Cinco de Mayo. You know? I don't know if you guys have that in England, but here it's like a big holiday, and everybody just kind of like, oh yeah, you know, like somewhere in my family, I've got, you know, Mexican people that married in, and you know, it's just an excuse to celebrate and another excuse to get trashed.
Yeah, yeah. We don't. Well, depending on where you're from in the country, that could be Monday through Sunday. Well, with Brexit going on at the moment, it's kind of enough to drive anyone to want to get trashed and just forget about the whole thing.
Right.
But we don't condone that. We condone responsible behaviour. Right. I had a rugby fan. Can't believe Scotland blew it against England yesterday after coming back from a record margin. But anyway, I saw. Do you guys have Peroni, Nostra Azzurra?
Yeah, it's an
lager.
Italian. Yeah, yeah, we do have that.
So they've started doing these things called Gran Reserve.
Okay.
Reserva? Yeah, Gran Reserva. And they do a Rosso and a Dupo. And there was another one that I tried which wasn't as nice, but the Rosso wasn't actually a Rosso. The only way I can describe it is if you'd lagered a brown ale.
What? That's kind of
It was genius.
That's an interesting concept, yeah. Okay.
So it was a light brown ale, but it had been lagered. So it was, whereas if you think of something, your classic Newcastle Brown.
Right, right.
So it's slightly lighter than that and gassy, so it's a bit more refreshing to drink. And it was genius.
Okay.
Thanks, Italy. Shame your rugby team's a bit shit, but thanks for the nice bit.
Oh man. So that's your beer of the week?
Yeah, if you can find one, get it. It's really good.
Okay. Let's see. Earlier tonight I had I don't know if you've ever had this or if you've ever heard about it. I'm gonna butcher the name. It's a German lager. It's spelt PFRIEM, I think.
Try and say it. You know you want to. Are the fans out there really want you to try and say that right now?
Pifferum. Throw a German accent on that. Pifferum.
Bless you.
Yeah, no. No, but it was actually really, really good. So I had that. I had a sour actually that was it's brewed about 8 hours north of here, in the other major city in Nevada, which is Reno, and that was kind of good. It had some mild grapefruit notes. It was supposed to be a cucumber key lime beer, which, I mean, it was a regular lambic sour, but they wanted to foof it up and, you know, make it sound more enticing than it was.
Make it seem bloody horrible.
Right. It wasn't too bad. It was pretty decent. It was a good tart sour beer. And then I had a local American IPA, so very West Coast style, extremely bitter, loaded with hops, but not the potpourri that you hate. Okay, like it was distinctly bitter and piney. Is the best way that I can describe it. So that was pretty good. And let's see. Right now, I'm drinking a Belgian saison that's from a local brew here, Craft House. I had their beer last week too. It's from the same pack that I picked up. This is pretty good. It's 4.7%. It's 22 IBU. Just a pretty standard saison.
Okay. And just to let people know, Evan's not here at the moment because he's too busy planting cocaine on actors or game developers so that he can sabotage my SIFTD fantasy draft. So that's what Evan's doing at the moment because I drafted Judgment, or Judge Eyes, as it should be called. And then because I drafted that, Evan planted cocaine on that actor and called it into the police so that that game can't get released and I lose out on an entire score. So that's what Evan's up to. It's just, what is he going to target next? Is he going to go for Doom Eternal? What is he going to do to stop me from having that game launch this year? I just think it's really selfish. Depriving everyone of a game that he's already played just to stop me from getting any points in the SIFTD Fantasy League.
Do you want to do a little bit of an update on that? So far, you have
no points,
no games that have come out yet. I only have one. There's a couple people that have like 2 and 3 games out already. So that'll be interesting. So Vincent and Simi 1101 both have 3
games. Which is Mitch. Great guy. Check out his streams, freeze frame rate.
So I guess I didn't put that together. Simi 1101 on Discord is Mitch on SIFTD and
yep, great guy.
All right, cool. Yeah.
And Evan must be watching because he's just sent me a message saying, I did sabotage you, but there was no maniacal laugh at the end.
I did sabotage you. He's wondering how long we've been streaming. Like, I don't know, dude, 12 minutes?
Yeah, we haven't done any topics yet, Evan. If you fancy jumping on, go for it. And you can let me know which your next target is so I can warn them. Right, should we get going?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Right.
You had brought up on Twitter, just between us, the possibility of talking about a streaming future, and particularly Google's streaming service. What are your thoughts on how viable a streaming only service is going to be?
Right, and then Google dropped all the news that we're going to have hardware and we're going to have a controller, and Jade Raymond's joined the team, and
indeed,
we're coming for your children, kind of thing. And yeah, Google seemed to really, really want a sweet piece of gaming pie.
Yeah, I think there's one of two outcomes here. Either they're going to just slightly beef up the Chromecast devices that plug into your HDMI port in the back of your TV, or they're going full on game console,
or both.
Yeah, that is a very real possibility.
To do both. And when we won't try and repeat the discussion that Shane and Matt had on Game Face because they covered the topic quite extensively. I'm more focused on the bits that they didn't cover, which is do I/we care? Which piece of the pie do they think they can get, or are they baking a totally new pie? there's going to be lots of pie puns or metaphors going on. So, because what streaming services have we already got? So you've got PlayStation Now, you've got Xbox Game Pass,
Right.
both of which you can aren't just streaming services because you can download on both of those now. You can stream to your Steam link.
Right. But only on the same local network.
Yeah. And then streaming's going to come from the app that Microsoft have built, so you can stream from your Steam machine to your Xbox.
Right.
So the thing for me about Google getting into streaming, and if you want to hear someone talk about that in a bit more detail, because I haven't actually tried the game streaming beta that they put up, but Brian and Corey, or Quiglin and Mythic Griffin talked about that on their podcast, A Starting Point, a little while ago, because Corey played the beta. And I think he was playing Assassin's Creed
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Yeah, it was Odyssey, because I was in on the beta too.
Okay, so how did you find the experience?
Phenomenal. So I have a Chromebook, which is like a minimal hardware. It's like an Intel Celeron processor, no graphics hardware to speak of.
You get better phones than that. Fucking hell.
Right. And so like the best thing about this device is the fact that it has an 802.11n network connection, or the 5 gigahertz.
Oh yeah, one of those. Oh yeah, I live by having one of those.
Right. So
you got a bit techie there and confused me, so I just thought I'd nod and agree.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So the best thing about that is that it has a fast Wi-Fi connection, basically, and it's a seamless experience. I loaded up Assassin's Creed Odyssey just to see, like, okay, how is this gonna run, and tried to play with like the touchpad and keyboard. That was not gonna fucking happen. While the game was still running and I had it like full screen and I was loaded into this thing, I plugged in my PS4 controller. It immediately switched over all the button contexts. Like, not even a couple of seconds after I plugged in the controller, it already knew that I was using a PS4 controller and could immediately start playing the game. I never had any issues. There was some slight degradation in the way that it looked, which was very similar to Netflix back in the day. So like if you had Netflix 5-6 years ago, occasionally you'll load up a video and it's kind of like blocky, and then like after you watch it for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, it clears up entirely. That was the experience that I had with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but sort of in and out. The latency was decent. I don't know if I could give like specific milliseconds.
Well, we can defer to people who can do counts of that. So let's let Digital Foundry do that.
Yeah, exactly. But it seemed really responsive and definitely good enough for a single player experience.
Yeah, because the thing I bought Battlefront 2 in the sale a few days ago, and I've been playing a bit of that, and there's noticeable lag in the multiplayer.
Okay. Just like there was with the first one.
Yeah, so it's only probably maybe a second, half a second, maybe even less, but you can tell. And that's the thing that concerns me about streaming, is what's the impact on my gaming experience? God, that sounded like I was at E3 doing a presentation. Yeah, I'd be the only one. From having a service that's reliant on either a hardline ping or a Wi-Fi ping.
Right.
So even if it's, I don't know, a couple of milliseconds or even less, that's enough to get screen judder and tearing. And I can understand if you're playing a single player game and you don't want the most graphically fidelious, just invent some words,
I like it. I'm gonna go with it.
experience. But if and this is where I think they're going streaming and hardware, because you do need something there to install something on to improve
Right.
the improve the look and how the game plays, having a local PC.
So you're saying even if it's like a robust client that can handle a multitude of different games, like there still has to be some sort of some sort of software processing on the client side.
For I think for it to work properly, you need a front end and back end. You can't just do everything from remote servers.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why, well, you can't. Your experience with your Chromebook shows that you can, but is everyone going to be happy with that?
No, of course
I
not,
don't
dude.
know.
This is the internet with Reddit. There will be people that are going to be absolutely unhappy,
Yeah,
despite how amazing this technology is.
yeah. And the other thing that I thought about is they've already done the test, and I thought it was Origins, but it was Odyssey. But they've done the test with, so Ubisoft are obviously on board with it.
Well, yeah, at least for the test. I mean, maybe they're interested in the technology and don't have the resources available.
Yeah. Well, they
So,
wouldn't. Why would you want to go and buy server farms if you're Ubisoft?
right, exactly. So it makes perfect sense for them to just sign up with somebody like Google or Amazon and say, yeah,
Yeah.
here's, the latest game that we have released. So everybody's going to want to play it. Let's really see what your servers can handle. Um, which is what I was impressed with because, I mean, I don't know the total user count that was on there, but I'm a nobody. And for them to throw me a link to log in and do this beta, there had to have been a shit ton of people that did have access to it. Whether or not they actually signed on and played with it, I don't know.
You're
But
not a nobody. Don't beat yourself up.
well, you know what I mean. I'm nobody special in the gaming industry. Nobody's, trying to pass me special codes. So yeah, it was interesting that I actually got a response to signing up for the beta, and they sent me a link and everything.
Yeah, because right. So let's assume that Ubisoft are on board going forward.
Okay.
EA, Activision, Blizzard, so basically all third parties could sign up to this. So isn't how would Microsoft, because Sony will just say, "Yeah, we don't like it, and we've got all our first parties." Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Microsoft are pushing their own open space gaming agenda.
And yeah, Microsoft's also pushing into Nintendo Land with
Yeah,
having Xbox Live available on mobile and Switch, which is interesting. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. If it's just
well, there's going to be a large exchange of money.
beyond truckloads of cash, shifting between two giant corporate buildings.
Yeah.
Um, I
But
mean,
it's something like that. It makes so. How would Google step into this if you've already got the ability to on your same Chromebook, you've got the ability to then sign into your Xbox Live account and play anything on Game Pass.
I think Google expands the Play Store and changes the types of games that you're consuming.
What,
Um,
to shitty mobile ports?
no, I'm just saying like they already had the infrastructure available to push games in a similar manner to the way that Steam does it, right? So you
But
replicate
then
that.
there's also the Epic Store, and
Right, right.
so what I'm trying to get at with my pie analogy is what slice of Google trying to get? Where are they trying to outcompete Steam and Epic? Because I can't see a situation where someone who is a PC gamer with access to the library of Microsoft games through Game Pass is going to play that same game on Google streaming or buy a Google box to get it.
Okay.
You see what I'm getting at?
I do, and I don't think that Google really cares. The proof of that is the Google Glass product that they released. Are people using those?
Here's a gigantic waste of money.
Right. No, but are people using Google Glass glasses today? No. It made big waves and people were very interested in it, and it just fucking faded away because it wasn't that compelling of technology. So it'll be interesting. Like if Google is able to go into GDC and say, here is a technology that makes it so even on the shittiest internet connection in Kansas, you can stream a game and have fun playing it. Okay, that will blow everybody's mind and it'll change the way that content is delivered. Or it'll be mildly interesting. Like, well, if you're in San Francisco and you have an amazing internet connection, yes, you can use the streaming service. Otherwise, here's a box that does basically what your PlayStation does, plus gives you access to mobile games through Google Play, you know? And then that's not
which will
very compelling. Yeah.
Or do Google, because they have so much money, do they just chuck money and set up a new development studio themselves?
If
it's an option.
If they have compelling first party stuff, that would be interesting. I think they'd have to get some solid names behind them, which obviously
hiring... Oh, they've got one. She's called Jade Raymond.
Well, I was going to say, obviously hiring Jade Raymond. But I don't know exactly what it is that she's doing at Google.
It's not game design by what I've read.
Right.
So she's heading up the streaming project and the hardware, not manufacturing, because that's not where her expertise is, but I build in the same way that Mark Cerny did it for PlayStation.
So you think it's possible that she's just there to woo developers and third parties?
No, I think she's obviously got a key role in how do we make this work? How do you understand the coding side of being able to get something from a server to a remote thing, whatever that might be. And how do we make sure that's as seamless as possible? And also, how do we make that a compelling offer in a market where you've got Steam, Epic, Game Pass, PlayStation, and PlayStation Now, and the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that unless it is just a technological wonder and is going to change everything, and then suddenly Google become the place to play multiplayer games because their infrastructure is so good that they've reduced lag and whatever else. They can have additional server load, so they can have more players online at once. Then I can see people getting really excited about it. But until then, I really don't see where they sit in the market.
I think if they don't figure out a way to do streaming multiplayer, I think it's going to be a hard market to get into because I don't see how you convince people to go away from what they know. And what they know is Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. Like whatever, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo release, that's a mainstay,
I think we've forgotten one important question.
Which is,
will Fortnite be there?
I don't know if that matters at this point with Apex Legends hitting the numbers it's hitting.
Yeah, well, that's another one. If you can get one of those zeitgeist type games exclusive to Google, or it's now available on Google, so if someone has just got a Chromebook and can't afford a $400 console or a $1,500 PC,
right?
Here's how you can get a decent gaming experience playing all the things that everyone else is playing and having a good time with.
I don't know that it'll necessarily be a battle royale game though. Like it could be something else entirely.
FIFA.
Well, no, I mean it could be like some genre that somebody hasn't yet defined, like an evolution of some other game type that people end up latching onto.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out what happens after. Well, when's the stream? Tuesday. Don't know what time.
The GDC stream. Yeah, I don't know what time it is either, but sometime this coming week, we will be able to find out exactly what it is that Google's doing.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else we can say about that?
No.
One thing I did think of is you mentioned Amazon. I was thinking about this the other day because Google right, where's the Amazon connection come in? Amazon, if they wanted to, could just buy out all of the sports licenses from every provider around the world and still have squillions of money left over. So what they're doing at the moment is they're testing the market in certain regions and buying, say, Premiership football from England, and they're showing it exclusively on Amazon Prime in, I think, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
Interesting. Okay.
And I can't remember how much they paid for that, but they've got exclusive streaming rights for that there. It wouldn't take much for Google to say to a couple of developers who maybe want to get under the feet of corporate masters and say, if you come here and work with us, here's a very large check, or even a small check for them has got lots of zeros on the end of it.
Right.
And they could just look at just buying out a chunk of the market.
I mean, that's always a possibility for a corporation that's as large as Amazon and Google are. There's also the fact that Amazon has its own game engine that supposedly leverages the power of the cloud. I don't know who's using Lumberyard at this moment in time, or if there are any notable developers that are using Lumberyard to build their game. But that's something that Amazon has going for it, which I don't know that Google does. I don't think they have their own game engine. It's not like Sony and Microsoft, or like EA has their engine that's caused tons of problems.
Yeah. And one point, because there was a bit of a discussion on SIFTD about Frostbite. If Frostbite is the amazing, easy to use, mega stylish, lovely looking game engine, why don't Respawn want to use it?
Right.
Just throwing that one out there. Draw a line under that.
It's because it's kind of trash. obviously, right?
And there's okay, so it does certain things very well. I'll go back to what the ex Bioware developer whose name slash interview I can't recall, but they described Frostbite as having an F1 car when you wanted an SUV.
Right. Yeah, it does first person twitchy shit really well, but when you try to do a third person RPG, it's
Yeah,
doesn't really
yeah.
hold
But
up.
ultimately, Respawn have got a pass from EA for some reason, and I think that maybe because they had Apex Legends in train, and EA thought this could be a smash. So let's not force them to rebuild it in Frostbite. And then I slightly facetiously put a tweet out because I started having a bit of a back and forth with the Starting Point guys on Twitter, and said, and Andrew Wilson goes to Vince Ampella and says, Vince, how quickly can you make a Star Wars game? And Vince said, I can make a Star Wars game this year. And Andrew Wilson says, great. And then Vince says, but not using Frostbite.
Yeah, absolutely. Using Unreal or some tweaked version of id Tech, from
Yeah.
way back in the day.
So that's why I suspect Respawn have got a pass on using Frostbite, is that they can get a Star Wars game out quicker with an engine that they know and understand.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Force Unleashed used Unreal 3. So there's always that.
Right, so we've obviously moved off Google.
Well, yeah, I kind of wanted to tie in. So the second topic that I was thinking about talking about was how do us old guys feel about games as a service? And in my mind, I was sort of tying together streaming with games as a service, because if you could tie together those two things, a game that you don't actually have to download, a game that you just load up through a browser or through your client, and it's free and it just continues forever. Um, I think that's a very intriguing proposition for most any publisher, just because it's continual revenue stream, and the barrier to entry is so much lower with not having to worry about having a powerful device in the hands of your consumer, right? You make it very easy for people to spend $1 at a time if they don't have to worry about having a $1,500 PC or a $400 console. So, what are your thoughts on sort of like games as a service?
If you are a grindy time sink that is constantly demanding my attention, piss off. And this is the thing. I've tried a few. So I played a bit of what's the Space Ninja game?
Warframe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played a bit of Warframe. I thought this is kind of cool. And then I got bored of it very quickly. I can understand why people would like the Space Ninja type element, but what you do is so repetitive. And okay, they spent a lot of time changing the environments and creating kind of an open world type element to it, and but everything you do is just cool space jump, shoot some shit, slice some shit. There is nothing else around it.
Okay.
Same. What else? Destiny. Played Destiny 2, and
Right, but those do have the initial buy-in of $60.
yeah. So, well, I didn't pay that.
Okay.
I waited for a pretty hefty discount. I think I paid 15 quid for it.
That's not
And
bad, yeah.
So I went through the campaign and then just totally lost interest in anything after that. Because there was some grindy bits that you needed to do, or well, you didn't need to do, but you're encouraged to do. The game encourages you to do the public events and things like that happen.
Okay.
But I didn't feel rewarded as much for doing that. And any game that I need to diarise my involvement, and there's an expectation that you have to play with friends.
Yeah, that's a huge barrier for me.
Yeah, because we're both old and we've got no friends.
Well, I wasn't gonna go there. I was just gonna say that I can't organize a time to get friends online. But yeah.
Yeah, because everyone else is because we're older. We're not at school or university. We don't have spare hours and hours and hours. Where you
Right,
can
and
just everyone.
not everybody has the same schedule too, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So I got a text from my friend who I've been playing some Apex Legends with a couple of nights ago, just saying Apex question mark. I said, "Sorry, dude, I can't tonight."
right.
But he does shift work, so he's going to most likely be on when I'm not.
Right.
And I do find that playing Apex Legends with people who you know is a much more enjoyable experience than playing it with randoms.
Well, that's true with any multiplayer game, really,
Yeah.
especially if it's team based.
Yeah. And then I played the Division 2. I played both betas in Division 2, so the closed one and the public beta.
Okay.
And I do like the feature that they have in that where you can call people in.
Okay.
So it can be a bit tough if you're playing that game solo.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit about Division 2 if you want.
Not really.
Well, I did the
Just shut it down there.
I did the open beta.
Yeah.
I did not like the first one at all. It was so bullet spongy. Really turned me off. But I think it's FSB Alston on SIFTD is like a really big division guy, and he was saying, you know, like, well, just give it a try. And I'm sorry if I get that wrong. I'm not sure if he's the user that was telling me to jump on and try it out again. But I was like, you know what? Like Division 2, if the beta's free, like I'll download it and try it out. So I did. I don't know if this is a bug of the beta or if it's something that is sort of inherent to trying to play this game solo. But I hit a section that was not a regular mission, just on the regular streets. But I was in a section where I kept respawning, but there was like 6 or 8 enemies in like a circular pattern around my character. And so I just kept dying because I couldn't take out all the enemies in time. And it just kept respawning me with all these enemies around me. And it's like,
Did you try running away?
I did. It was near impossible because of where I was located.
Yeah, you're not very robust in that game. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and this was after I had already unlocked a couple of the different drone abilities, and I think one of the smoke grenade or something like that. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Well, let's just say I had more fun playing the Division 2 closed beta and public beta than I did playing Anthem.
That I can agree with. Unfortunately, yeah.
And I think if we wanted to just ream off all of these games as a service, or even different elements of them. So you've got games like Anthem, Division 2, Destiny, but then you've got, on the other side, you've got time sync MMOs.
Right.
So it seems as though everything has to be a service, unless you're Capcom or Sony releasing things like God of War and Spider-Man.
Well,
Um,
how do you feel about No Man's Sky and Hello Games?
I'm indifferent towards them. They're not too far away from where I am, actually, in Guildford.
Okay,
So
but
if I wanted to, I could get on a train and throw eggs at their studio for lying about their game.
but like what they've done though is have sort of just bypassed the whole pay us X amount of dollars to get every update. And it seems like Sean Murray's like, I made so much money off of conning you guys into a fucking early access that I'm just gonna release updates for free forever. And if
Yeah, but
you've
not
if you've
everyone gets
never played
like
it
that.
before, here's your opportunity to buy it for $25 on Steam or PSN.
Yeah, and in a always online world, people are saying, "Oh, it's great that you can get patches and bug fixes and things like that." And the flip side of that, if you listen to Jim Sterling about the triple A gaming industry, is that every game is early access.
Pretty
We are going
much, yeah.
we're going to see more and more um, games like Anthem and the issues that that's got, rather than people seeming to take the time like Ubisoft did with the Division 2, which is actually quite the both versions of the beta were a very, very polished experience. Um, Barring the bug that you had, I didn't have any problems at all. All of the systems worked. I tried the call in thing, call for help,
Okay,
and that worked seamlessly. Fast travel was working seamlessly,
okay.
um, which was really, I don't know if there was because it was a beta, so it's not a full release, but I was amazed at how quickly you loaded into different areas. Compared to Battlefront 2, the load times in Battlefront 2 are a pain in the ass. And yeah, it's okay, I can go on and check Twitter or listen to us back talking shite
Right.
whilst I'm waiting for it to load. But if you're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could jump in an X-wing and shoot down some TIE fighters, but you're waiting for one player to join so that you can have a full match, and you're just sat there looking at the screen. No, someone's still not on. What do I do instead? What's the likelihood of you sticking with that? And this is where the games as a service model might find itself falling down. As soon as people start dropping off,
Right.
it doesn't take very much for the service element to be undermined.
Yeah, if you don't have community, you don't have a game.
Yeah, so you need a certain level of customer saturation. Um,
Now, see, this is where I think the streaming element comes into play. If you can actually do it with multiplayer games and get the latency down far enough, or at least put it on an even delay across all players, where nobody realizes that they're on a latency delay. Um, these games make a hell of a lot more sense because yes, it's technically early access when you buy into it originally, but if it's streaming from another server, you're always getting the most recent version. There's no updates on your end, and you never know whether or not a game has actually changed. It would be entirely up to the publisher or the developer to do release notes or development notes or something of that nature to let
which
you.
is what the guys at oh Christ, I can't remember the name of the studio for Warframe, but after say some bad press, they really went out of their way to engage with the community, and they were doing streams saying, "You told us these things needed improving. We've done that. We've also noticed that some rebalancing needed to happen, so we've done that." And they seem to really get that having a honest interaction with their playing community was really helping them, not only in terms of building trust and therefore getting more money,
Right.
um, but also in the sense of them being able to develop the game as the community developed playing it.
Right.
Whereas I can't see faceless corporation Electronic Arts doing that.
Well, all right. So whether or not they actually get that involved with the community, I guess what I was getting at was, like me from the perspective of an end user, of an end consumer. If all I have to do is log into my browser, so like right now, if Warframe gets updated, even if you don't pay attention to the patch notes, you're aware of it because you have to wait an extra couple of minutes while that patch downloads and installs. But if it's all streaming, like it's all seamless, like you have no concept of any patches being made. You just see this gradual.
Well, you'd have to have some kind of service interruption, wouldn't you? It would be you won't have access in this region for, I don't know, 4 hours whilst we.
Well, yeah, true, but I don't know. Not everybody's playing 24/7 either.
Yeah, it would just be a case of shut up and deal with it whilst we. Whilst we
Right.
fix something.
Yeah, it would be like, well, the average consumer probably won't have to ever witness that. But whoever it is that's up at 4 a.m. while we reboot the servers, like they're going to get interrupted.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like for certain things that aren't a constant demand on my time, I would have more time for that. So in theory, you've got games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is technically a game as a service because you've got multiple different DLC packages and expansions and everything else coming down the pipeline.
Well, microtransactions baked into the experience too.
Yeah, so that it's technically a game as a service, but you could play that game as much or as little as you wanted. So you could just do the critical path, or you could get really involved in doing absolutely everything and buying new weapons, armor, and skills to see who wins a death battle. But yeah, for other things like so Battlefront, I think I'm going to get pretty sick of the multiplayer very quickly because
that's fair.
It takes a long time to level up, and it takes even longer then to unlock the star cards that you need in order to be as competitive as other people who've been playing it for a long time or paid money.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of where they fucked up. If it changes your ability to play the game from everybody else, then you shouldn't be able to spend money on it.
Yeah. So there's all this stuff about all the microtransactions are cosmetic and you level up through the game. I've been killed / shot down by people with very high-end star cards, and it's that kind of thing. If you want a game as a service, you need to be able to deliver it at someone at the point of entry, whether that be someone who gets it day one or a year or 15 months or 2 years later. They still need to be able to have that not necessarily the same, but a competitive experience.
Right. If they happen to be amazing at the game, then they should be able to immediately pair up with everybody that's been playing it for 3 years. Like if you just have a natural talent towards that particular game, then yeah, you should be able to just play against people that are on the same skill level that you are.
And not think, oh, this person's been playing it for God knows how long.
And they've dumped, $120 into it or whatever, and
but so I can understand if someone. I'm not trying to say that someone should have all of their skills and perks and whatever else taken away from them, but you need, if you're entering into a game as a service, you need to have something that creates some sort of parity at an early level, so that you're just not getting griefed by people who have been playing it for that length of time.
Right.
Because I'm kind of talking myself round because it's been like that ever since World of Blurcraft.
Well, all right. So getting back to your Odyssey example, do you feel like games as a service have to be multiplayer focused, or like have to revolve around those types of microtransactions where the shit that you do to your character means something to somebody else, whether or not it's in game or it's stuff that people are sharing on Twitter or Facebook or whatever? It's like, oh, my character looks this much cooler than your character, so you have to spend the money to do it.
For me, I don't care. I'd rather have a DLC model than a MMO style model.
Okay. What if you had something like Mass Effect 2 where you could play the first 5 hours completely free, and then you have to pay $10 every 5 hours after that?
Well, that would be really fucking annoying. Are you pitching this to Google?
No, I'm just saying, like, for every, like, quote unquote 5 hours worth of story that you go through, would it be worth paying another $10 to get further into the story?
No.
Even if you can complete the entire game with $60?
No, because I'd feel like someone was ransoming the game to me.
Okay. So for you, it's about it's not just about the overall monetary cost; it's about the approach.
Yeah, it has to be. And then anyone who says they don't mind about the money can obviously afford not to mind about the money.
Right. Actually, yeah, I was thinking back to another conversation that you and I had where we were talking about trading in video games.
Oh, you mean the used game market is ruining the games industry?
Right, exactly. So it's $60 to somebody else is not necessarily $60 to us, because we collect the 4 or 5 games that we've played in the last year, and then trade that up for the next newest game until we can get $60 to get another new game or whatever.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the games as a service model is the constant competition.
Okay.
And I don't mean that as it has to be a multiplayer game. I'm talking about inter-publisher and even inter-developer competition. So you've got Anthem and Apex Legends, whilst two very different games. They're both games as a service, and they're both games from the same publisher. So ultimately, the publisher wants both to be successful, but at the moment, only one is.
Right. And the likelihood that both will be successful within the same time frame is highly unlikely, even though they focus on different user bases or different install bases. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've only ever got a finite amount of people willing to pay and then pay to play and then pay again and again and again. So, and you've got that across multiple different genres and across multiple different publishers. So it seems as though the idea that they can all create time sinks that are compelling with non-exploitative monetization practices, I think is a bit naive. I don't know. It strikes me a bit as a bit of short-termism. This is the new hot thing.
So
we've got to do the new hot thing. But by the time the new hot thing comes around, this is old. And it comes back to the same discussion that we were talking about in kind of video game pricing models. It seems as though there is this compulsion from the major publishers that they have to have this style element because they've seen the money coming in from mobile gaming that follows this method.
Right.
And So let's apply that to PC and console games. Whereas what I would want, as if I was a CEO earning millions of dollars,
To
I
say
would
the
want,
least.
yeah, I would want a diverse portfolio of games.
Right, right.
So and not feel obliged or compelled to shoehorn elements in that either people wouldn't expect to be there, or would put a certain percentage of people off from playing it, because you want a wide install base, but then you want to capture those people who are going to keep with it.
Right, and how
Talking about capturing, I mean, fucking hell, how corporate did that sound? We need to capture our players, and we need to keep them in pens, and then you give us your credit card details and your PIN code, and
it's just, yeah, put it on Chase recurring. Just,
yeah.
No, but how large is that that market segment too? Like, I don't know that the gaming industry actually knows how large of a percentage of gamers that is, where somebody's willing to just put their bank account on a recurring payment month after month. And
So
that might also be where Google's coming from, is they don't really know how large that market is, so not knowing is worth taking the risk that maybe we can find enough people to make it viable.
yeah, and I like using the example of Madden and FIFA, because with those games, EA know pretty much every year how many they're going to sell, in what regions, except Belgium now, and they can estimate from previous data how much money they'll make from Madden cards and FIFA Ultimate Team packs.
Right,
So
right.
they're working from a stable business model, but that also means that they won't ever try and do anything new with it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, because I used to play Madden a lot until they started turning it into this games as a service model, and then I just thought, "Fuck you guys, I'm
Well,
going home."
okay, Cartman.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends. I'm sure that different players have different breaking points. For you, it's the whole concept, right? Like, I spent $60 on this game. I should be able to just play everything that's in it and not be
Well, not really.
slapped in the face.
No, I don't mind to a certain degree being expected to support a game ongoing on some kind of financial basis. I don't mind. I'm not just dead set against it.
Okay.
But it's the implementation of how you do that. So if I'm playing Apex Legends, I'm enjoying it, I might buy one of the packs of stuff. Probably not. I don't care enough to upgrade, give myself a new gun skin. Whoa, big fucking deal.
Right, right.
Which you might never have a chance of actually picking up in a round. So why would I care about having skins for guns that I might not even have access to? That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's kind of an interesting paradigm just for battle royale games, though.
Yeah. Why would you expect people to pay money for things that they might not ever get?
Right. Or won't get enough every time they play that it makes it worthwhile for them. Yeah.
So yeah, there's things like that I just don't get, so I wouldn't do it. If I'm particularly enjoying a game, I feel a bit stupid for getting rid of. I didn't get rid of it. I traded Spider-Man in, and used the money to get Red Dead 2.
Okay.
But I wish I'd held on to Spider-Man so I could play all the DLC.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
So
fair.
for me, it's It's how much have I enjoyed said game that I want to support it financially, and what is the means by which I can support it financially. And if it's anything to do with microtransactions and random gambling mechanics, which Madden and FIFA definitely is,
Right.
they can fuck off. Especially when I don't know if you've played Madden at all, but when the first thing that comes up when you load the game is an advert for Madden Ultimate Team packs. So after the main splash loading screen, it's loading into the menu, and the first thing that you see whilst it's loading into the menu is, have you thought about buying Madden packs?
Of course.
Of course, that's the only thing that I came for.
Yeah.
I didn't actually come here to try and play a game. I came here just to buy cards.
Just to spend money.
Yeah.
I have a pulse. So, of course.
I have a pulse and a credit card and the ability to use it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from with games as a service. There's a time sink issue, and then there's a don't fuck with me issue.
Okay. I think both of those are very valid, and I think both of those are fair. Do you know of any game that you've played that sort of walks the line of being the type of game that is worth the time investment and worth the monetary investment?
There's your answer.
Okay. I can think of two games for me personally. Paladins and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Both of those games I've actually spent real money on over time. I think
well done. I'm glad you've enjoyed those.
Right. I think it's going to be different for every person. And there's going to be no like one trick pony or like a specific formula that's going to hook people. I don't know. I guess this gets back to my earlier thought of like, I don't really know how large the market is because, nobody's really gauged, this subset of people are definitely going to spend money.
Yeah. And there's only so much you can lever out of someone in terms of recurrent payment.
Right.
And so you either go mass distribution, low value transactions, or you do upfront cost with higher value purchases. But it seems as though, and I swear to God, I haven't just been regurgitating everything Jim Sterling says, but it seems as though there are some developers out there and publishers mainly, who want both.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And this is where it comes back to the piece of the pie. So if Google enter and say, all you're paying for is the cost of streaming, you don't actually have to buy any of the games because we've come up with a licensing agreement with X number of game developers and publishers. So all you're paying for is accessing the right to play something online.
Right.
And we will have regular updates on everything. You've got access to everything. The only thing you want to spend money on is the elements of the game that require you to spend money should you so choose.
Right.
So, but other than your, I don't know, how much is Game Pass? $10 a month?
Is that all it is? That seems cheap.
Let's just, I don't know, $12.99 a month then.
All right.
Or whatever. I don't know. I'm not paying however much PlayStation Now is.
That's a rip-off for sure.
Yeah. But if Google came in and said, well, you can play most of those things If you, I'm looking out the window because there's a cat on my windowsill staring at me.
I think that might be a sign, dude. We might have to wrap it up soon.
Yeah, probably because you need to go to sleep. Your wife's probably thinking, "Where the hell are you? Why are you talking to that crazy British guy about video games
She
at this
knows.
time of night?"
She knows. Um,
Yeah,
because I have to. That's why.
because it's not. I'm just getting up early. You've got to stay up late. Um, right now, the cat's wandered away and licking itself. Yeah, that's probably a sign. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that. Those are our thoughts on streaming and games as a service. Did talk a little bit about
I'd rather watch a cat lick itself than play Madden or FIFA. There you go. Final thought.
or Battlefield or Battlefront 2. Um, wow. Okay. I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna leave our viewers and you with this question. Who do you think is gonna take F1 this year? Do you think it's gonna be another Mercedes beating? They're just gonna like thwomp on everybody this year, or do you think that Ferrari and Red Bull have a chance in hell?
Yes and yes, but it's slim.
Okay.
Because there are certain tracks that suit the different constructors better, and I don't think the Honda power unit in the Red Bull is good enough to compete. But it doesn't really matter because Max Verstappen is the center of the driving universe.
He's a madman, that's for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I'm still thinking that I'd rather watch a cat lick itself than play Madden or FIFA.
Fair enough. And on that note, we're gonna leave our viewers. Have a good night, all.
Meow.